Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this evening or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Andrea Satariano, and the program today is going to be focused on preparing to write your personal statement. Let me tell you a little bit about myself for a moment. My background is in independent school college counseling, where I worked for about 25 years, ushering students through the college search and application process. So I'm excited to speak with you today about the idea around the personal statement, which I often refer to as the Common App essay, although other application formats will also have a personal statement requirement. So let's just jump into this evening's discussion, and here we go. So what is actually the Common App personal statement? So, whoops, I apologize. So the Common App asks students oh dear, I'm so sorry. There we go. Ask students to write a personal statement. This is particularly scary for some students because of the length. The essay length for the Common App personal statement is approximately a page, about 650 words. Now, there are a variety of topics. The Common App provides 6 or 7 essay prompts each cycle. They can change from year to year, but typically they remain about the same, and they always have included an essay prompt of topic of your choice. So if a student goes through the multiple options and is just not really connecting with one, they can either write something that just really appeals to them that is not related to the prompts, or perhaps even use the basis of a history or English paper that they really are proud of and did a lot of work on. That might also be able to be moved into the realm of the topic of your choice essay prompt. There is no preference given to any of the specific prompts. Oftentimes, students and their families worry, is this topic better than this topic? And I can tell you from experience, any one of the prompts are absolutely fine. There is no preference whatsoever. And so students should really feel comfortable just choosing the topic that they identify with the most. Now, the personal statement is actually to help the student stand out. Lots of pieces of the college application, a transcript, an activity resume, teacher recommendations, things like that. There'll be lots of similarities between applicants in those pieces. The one item that the students really, really can stand out in their own voice is the Common App personal statement. The goal really is for the college admission office to learn something about the applicant beyond what they can already easily see in that applicant's file. Again, a transcript, test scores, a resume. The objective, really, the overarching objective of the essay, and this is something I believe in very, very deeply, that essay should be thesis-driven, not activity-driven. Very frequently, and maybe it's a comfort zone, students want to focus their essay on some amazing achievement that they have earned, reached throughout high school. And yes, these are amazing moments and definitely deserve a spotlight shined on them, but it's not actually what the essay is for. There are ample opportunities throughout an application for students to highlight those amazing achievements and activities. We want to say throughout the essay writing and drafting and finalizing process, what does this say about me? This is it's who I am, what I've learned, and how I show up. Colleges want to know what kind of person you are in the essay, what kind of roommate you will be, what kind of lab partner you will make, what kind of student activity coordinator would you make. They're looking to see who you will be in their own community. And so this is the importance of the essay being authentic and it really in a student's voice. So why start now? If I could tell you nothing else through this program today, it would be, if you are a grade 11 student, you should start right now thinking about your Common App personal statement. In general, time management is a key factor in the college application process to maintain your sanity. There are many moving pieces. There are many different deadlines. It's a lot to keep track of, even for the most organized student. But so please keep this timeline in mind with regards to writing. The Common Application, although currently still is in the class of 2024 mode, on August 1st, the Common App will flip a switch and it will turn over to the class of 2025. On that day, August 1st, all of the colleges begin populating their Common App section with their own college-specific essays. The importance of having your Common App created before August 1 and having colleges listed in your Common App before August 1 is so that you will be able to see and begin envisioning and drafting and brainstorming topics for all of those specific essays. Those are different than the Common App personal statement. The Common App already has announced that the Common App essay prompts for the class of 2025 are already published. So this means today, high school juniors, you could look at the Common App prompts, begin determining whether any of them sound good to you, and begin that brainstorming process. My recommendation is you follow the following general time frame. A student, as of August 1st, and the student can begin mapping out, again, any of the colleges they're applying to, they will have their separate supplemental essay questions. The student should use August, September, and October to brainstorm, draft, and edit all of those supplemental essay questions. Keep in mind that the supplemental essays are typically shorter in length. Anywhere from 250 to 350 words is fairly common. So why is that important? Because that leaves now June and July for students to review the prompts, brainstorm ideas, begin drafting and editing, and this will take a very big to-do item off of your checklist. So where do I begin? As I said a little earlier, this essay tends to scare students because it's 650 words. It's so important. It's their sole opportunity to give their voice to their application file. But I would say to students, just let it go. Just let it go. All of that worry and stress. I love this quote by Stephen King. The scariest moment is always just before you start. And that is certainly true in college application essay writing. Students will struggle. They will become frozen under the weight of simply getting started because they think they don't have the perfect topic. And I will tell you, in reality, there is no perfect topic. College admissions representatives say this over and over and over. Please do your best to not worry about your chosen topic. It will be just fine as long as it is well crafted and in your voice. So that's the first. The second, students often feel pressure to write something that they believe the admissions committee wants to hear. And in reality, admissions reps say all this all the time. They want to know who you are beyond your statistics and your resume. So for example, if being the yearbook editor is amazing accomplishment for you and you have grown and learned so much from that experience, it could potentially be an excellent essay topic, but it might also be better suited to the activity section of the application and choose another item about yourself to really highlight. And finally, students and families often hear they should avoid certain topics. And while this can be true, my advice is any topic can be a good topic if it's well written. So, item number 1, stay true to yourself. The essay should reflect who the applicant is, what they believe, They want to let that committee know their personality, their interests, their strengths, all of the things that make you who you are. College admissions representatives read thousands of college application essays. If you can imagine reading these over and over and over. This is also why choosing your topic can be an important factor. However, there's only one you, and so to be as authentic as you can possibly be is really the key to having a successful college essay. Of course, you need to be grammatically correct. You should have somebody proofread your essay for sentence structure and things of that nature. But college admissions directors frequently say, perhaps as important or more important is really that the writing sounds like you, the 17 or 18-year-old student applying to college. Admissions reps can tell right away if an essay was heavily edited by an adult. Often I hear young college admissions reps joke that they can tell if a grown-up wrote the essay because they will be 2 spaces after the period. I am guilty of that. That tells you my age, my generation. But really, college reps can sense if it's a 52-year-old in a Talbot sweater or a 17-year-old a style of writing. Additionally, in many ways, thankfully, AI is not yet sophisticated, quite capturing the nuance of this type of writing. And so in many ways, it becomes very clear to college admissions readers if AI was used heavily in the writing of an essay. Additionally, they can see right through the fluff. So finding an essay topic that you can write well on for 550 to 650 words is really important. If you're overwriting and over embellishing, that will stand out right away. What comes first when we think about writing? Okay, so first, of course, you have to look at the topics. And so my recommendation is you create a Google Doc or some format that you are comfortable with using and copy the Common App essay prompts into that Google Doc. Just copy them straight in. Then read through each one. I know this sounds a little silly, but read through each one and begin to feel if any of them seem reasonable, sound better to you than others. It will immediately be apparent the ones that do not feel like might be a comfort zone for you. But really make notes as you're reading through the questions and thinking about them. Just make little bullet points about the topics that sound interesting and why. Can you come up with a quick anecdote or an example as you're reading through the 6 or 7 options through the prompts? Don't limit yourself to something you've done this year as a topic. Sometimes something in middle school might have been so transformational that it set you on a particular path. The heart of the story, it doesn't matter when it started, it's the storytelling that really will ring true and stand out in the essay. So try to be open-minded and think about yourself in terms of areas of growth, areas of engagement, amazing things that you've seen yourself accomplish, even challenges that you've overcome can contain a very important and powerful story about you. I will tell you from many years of experience, this type of reflective writing does not come naturally to most students. Now, you may be getting an A in AP English, and you may love writing 5 and 6 and 7 page research papers for your history class and be able to do that a day before it's due and get an A. And good for you. There are lots of good skills in that. But that is not the kind of writing that will help you stand out in the college admissions essay world. So give yourself some space and time as you're going through those prompts and writing down anecdotes and examples. Come back to them, put it aside, come back a few days later, look at it again, try to add more bullet points each time you look at it. And 1 or 2 of those prompts should begin to surface as likely choices for you. I also would recommend asking other trusted adults or friends to read the prompts with you and offer their suggestions. This is a great job for mom or dad. They often might have ideas to tie together little bits and pieces from your academic and activity history that you might not think of yourself. So employ the help of others. Now, you have identified one or two topics. It's now time to really start drafting. The writing process, again, is not like what you typically do for high school assignments. You should, in my opinion, map out a series of dates on a calendar and stick to, right, this regiment for writing. Many times students will say to me, I like this topic and I like this topic, and I have some examples for both. And so my response to that is, well, let's start roughly writing both. Like, don't invest weeks of time, but take a stab at, a paragraph or two of each topic. Again, put it aside, let the ideas marinate a little bit, and then come back. Maybe read it to your counselor or your parent or your English teacher. See if either of the two directions you're going really stand out. There's no one perfect way to draft an essay. I am a bullet point maker. I just randomly am shooting down ideas with my cursor, and I'm not worrying about the structure or even the paragraph layout at this stage. I'm just trying to get anything I can on paper. And then I can work on sentences and copying and pasting things into different categories, which develop into the paragraphs. If you have a brilliant idea to open, great, start with the opening paragraph. If you think of an amazing quote to wrap up and tie up your story, start with the closing paragraph. It just doesn't matter as long as it works for you. But the key is budgeting yourself some time and scheduling yourself to some writing periods. So, as I said, make a schedule and stick to it. So here's a really important tip. If you look at a calendar, and maybe you use an app on your phone, maybe you have one hanging on your refrigerator at home, whatever it is, pick an end date, a due date for your essay, and work backwards. If you, as an example, think you might apply to a college on November 1, which is a very common early application deadline in the senior year, and you want to submit your application before the deadline, so give yourself a week wiggle room. So go back a week and say, submit application. Put that on your calendar. If you want to submit your application on that day, a week before November 1, you want to back up from that your Common App essay and any of the additional essays you're going to have to write for the number of colleges to which you might apply. If you start to do that and say, rough draft number 1, due here, rough draft number 2, due here, final draft, due here, you will back yourself up literally to June. The runway is much shorter than it feels. And in the summer, it's important to remember family obligations, summer camp, things of those nature. I see a hand up. I'm not sure how to answer the hand. Okay. So I like to use a calendar. I also will recommend not forcing yourself to sit for an hour at a screen and just stare. Again, this is sort of a paralysis, right? You get stuck because you don't know what to say, so you have nothing to say. Start with a 30-minute timer. Start with 15 minutes, but stick to it. Do that once or twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, depending on how much you think you have to say, and find a rhythm that works for you. But put it on your calendar and make sure you're sticking to the attempt of writing regularly throughout this summer. Again, don't be afraid to work out of sequence on the essay. If inspiration strikes, again, for a great opening or great closing, go with it. There's no one correct way to approach this task. So, general essay tips for the big Common App personal essay in particular. You want to get their attention, of course. Again, thousands and thousands of students who may look similar to you on paper in terms of academic coursework and activities. You need to draw them in with something very specific and personal to you. It could be an anecdote, right, to open the story. It could be a joke. It could be a quote, something that the reader sees and says, huh, I want to learn more about this student. I want to see who this kid really is. A very important tip, you'll hear this from anyone who deals with college admissions essays, is please do not reiterate your resume here. This is not a place to go in depth about, again, winning an award, winning the state champion trophy. You want to have a story associated with that achievement potentially, but please do not just restate your activities here. This will immediately cause the reader to lose interest. You want, if there's a story to be used for one of those activities, great. But simply writing in depth about the activity is not quite what they're expecting here. Whoops, I apologize. Show, don't tell. I'm sure you've heard this about any kind of writing, but in the college process, it's especially true. Using anecdotes. Only you can have that anecdote. So set the stage of the story. Use emotional language. This doesn't mean you have to have a terribly heartbreaking story or anything of that nature, but you want to make sure it sounds like you when somebody reads it, and that it tells a story only you could tell. And so this is, I think, a piece of the puzzle where, and the next tip is read it out loud. And I always have students do one of two things: read it out loud to me or read it out loud to themselves. Have somebody read it out loud to you, the essay writer. It's amazing what you catch from hearing it after you've seen it 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day for so many days in a row. Your eyes will gloss right over some things. So read it out loud. Have somebody read it out loud to you. You want to be sure it's telling the story you think you're telling, and you want to be sure that you're hearing any unusual word usage, sentence structure, something like that, that might jump out at you when you hear it differently than when you're actually reading the text. I will tell you that you do not want to trust spell check, right? Things can be spelled correctly, but words could be used incorrectly. And there are many things like that, which of course we could go on and on about, but the proofreading is a crucial piece of the puzzle. And I would highly recommend you have somebody else proofread it before you copy and paste it into your application before you hit submit. Once you see it for the 400th time, you will think it looks terrific. But I will tell you from experience, many students hit submit and then find a teeny tiny error that they regret so much. So be sure that you have an additional pair of fresh eyes proofread your essays. So a few closing thoughts. It's again, focusing on the journey, not the achievement. And I know it's so easy to talk about a particular item and you work so hard for something, but college admissions committees actually are interested in the steps, the journey leading up to that achievement. How did it challenge you? How did you overcome some obstacles? How did you change your thoughts about a particular topic? Substance and voice are better than perfection. Yes, again, it should be word count correct, grammar correct, but if the student's voice and the story is so wonderful and powerful, no college admissions office will deny your application based on one grammar mistake or one inappropriate comma. That's not what they do. They're not redlining your essays. So please focus on your voice and the story you're telling. And it's scary. It is really scary to put yourself out there. Most high school students have never had to put themselves out in this way. They work for hours and hours on all of these aspects of an application, and they send it in to a bunch of strangers to read the application in about 4 or 5 minutes and make a decision. and you'll never know why the decision was made specifically, and you will likely never meet the people making those decisions. So that's scary, but please trust the process. And I promise you, there are actual, real human beings reading your application files. They are reading your essays. They are rooting for you. They're actually looking for reasons to admit you, not looking for reasons to deny you. And I know that's a very scary, scary idea, but if you put your best effort in and your best foot forward, and then let it go. Trust the process. You've done everything you can do. If you have told your story through your Common App personal statement as well as you can possibly tell it, it will resonate with the right people at the right time. So I know that there are some questions and some things in the chat. So let me jump over to that and take a look. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down and work my way from bottom to the top. Okay, so question number 1, how many papers does each admission committee member read? With schools receiving 100,000 applications per year, how is it even possible to submit a unique statement? Well, this is an excellent, excellent question. And you're right. It is physically impossible for any one college admission office to read every single piece of paper for 120,000 applications. But they have systems built in to help them with this. And so there's a couple different answers to that. One is many college admissions offices read in a system called community-based evaluation. And so everybody on the committee, and usually it's a geographic territory. So when I worked in college admissions, I was responsible for Ohio and Pennsylvania applications. So I was always a reader of any of applications from those 2 states. And I would read the application, I would read some notes, I would hand my file off to a second reader. That reader and I, if we agreed, terrific, it went through. If there were some questions or concerns, a third reader or our director of admission made the final decision. But the community-based evaluation, everybody in the admissions office is broken up into teams. Somebody's reading activity resumes, somebody's reading essays, somebody's reading, other pieces of the components of the application. And they're rating each other on their own category, and then they bring it together for a committee review. So the key is the topic itself may not be unique, but only your student can tell their story that way. And so, yes, again, there are probably 100,000 yearbook editors, 100,000 soccer team captains, 100,000 Eagle Scouts. But one specific story within that is why I say really needs, that's the uniqueness of it. Only in that student's voice can that particular message or anecdote be told. And of course, how many applications are they reading? That will vary by college. But you're right, they're spending, again, a few minutes, anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 minutes, trying to get through the bulk, right, of the material in the applications. It's a lot, and they work tirelessly around the clock. It's quite an undertaking. Okay, the next question is, could a student submit a short fictional story that demonstrates their writing ability and expresses their personal statement? Yes, they could. There are many colleges who would welcome a student's own piece of writing. The only little asterisk I would put there is that it should meet the requirement of length. And so if the student had a short story, maybe select a component of it to include, and then in the additional information section of the application, that student might say, please see, for the rest of the story, I'd be happy to submit that via email, or copy some of it into the additional information section. Again, knowing that the admissions representatives has limited time, they are not going to read 3 pages of an essay for a student. They cannot do that, at least in the initial review process. So choosing part of something already created is absolutely acceptable. That would be the topic of your choice. But I would say make sure you limit the word count to what they are requiring, and then offer the remainder of the story in another format. Okay, next question. Months for one-page essay seems a bit extreme. Are you implying that students should work on it? Yes, for a few minutes a month. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. I certainly don't mean every day. My best recommendation timeline would be right now. I don't think any student should worry about this until they're out of school for the summer. Some kids are out right now, but most are still in school for another week or two. But at that time, look at the Common App essay prompts, go through the list, look at some of the questions. Again, there are 6 or 7, pick out 1 or 2, and then set your calendar of events. Say, I'm going to brainstorm this week twice for 15 minutes. And then maybe next week, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes and try to draft a paragraph or 2. If you do that little by little and work on this once or twice a week, and you want the Common App itself, again, the 650-word maximum essay, the ultimate goal would be to have that completed by the end of July. So when August rolls around, the students can then focus on the same process of writing, but for those shorter supplemental essay questions. And again, colleges may have 1 supplemental essay, they may have 5 supplemental essays. And so again, the importance of getting the student to create their Common App account and entering the colleges into their Common App as soon as they can. On August 1st, that's how they'll identify how many extra essays they actually have to write. And those will be written in the months of August, September, October, because really you're submitting most early applications in early November. I hope that answered that question. Okay, the next question is, if you are transferring, what are some important aspects of the personal statement that change compared to high school? Should I follow the same principles? So actually, yes, you do want to follow the very similar principles, because the Common App has a transfer app. Specifically, it's not the regular Common App, it's called the Transfer Common App. And they also ask for an essay question. But additionally, a transfer applicant is almost always going to be asked what's considered a transfer statement, the statement of, why are you looking to transfer? And then to this particular school or for this particular major, but really what led the student to realize their current institution is not where they need to be to complete the major that they now are identifying they want or need. And so there'll be 2 bigger pieces of writing for transfer applicants. And again, there is a Transfer Common App with lots of information out there, easily accessible on the internet. Okay, next question. I'm a rising junior, class of 2026. Can I create a Common App now? And does it change every year? So excellent question. And thank you for being here with me. So you can create a Common App, but it's probably not as helpful for you at this moment. The Common App itself remains pretty much the same year to year, but each year it rolls over on August 1st. So again, right now, the Common App believes it's still working with current high school seniors, so class of 2024. You can create a Common App right now if you were in grade 11, and on August 1st, it will prompt you to roll over your account to the senior class of 2025. So if you're a rising junior, I would wait a little longer before I created it, but you could create your account, of course, look at the essay questions, begin looking at the kinds of questions, right, that the Common App will ask you. You can start thinking about, what activities will I include? How will I write about those activities? I'm going to have to figure out, did my mom graduate college and what year that was? There are lots of detail-oriented questions that most high school students don't know about their parents. And so you could potentially find out that information if you were really eager to do so now. Okay, I think those are the questions. Let me check one more spot because I'd love to be able to answer anything else. If we have, oh yes, here we go. How much, oh, this is an excellent question. How much should research into a school impact the personal statement, especially for the Common App, which sends the same statement to many schools? Excellent answer. And the overall, my response to that is your Common App essay should not be college specific. It needs to be a general story answering one of those prompts, or again, topic of your choice, but that is a story about you, specifically the applicant, and not about the college. Where the college research comes in handy are in those extra supplemental questions, which you will find out in after August 1st when the Common App rolls over. That's when the college specific research comes in very, very handy. Okay, next question. Should we focus on an anecdote or a clever theme or straightforward information about ourselves? So Sydney, would say that you want the information to be about yourself, but you really want it to build off of a story. So again, a clever theme, an anecdote, something that helps you tell a story. If you look at the prompts, you'll see they give you some categories, right, that you might tell your story about. For instance, tell us about a time you overcame a challenge and how did you grow from that experience? Or tell us a community that you're a member of and what is your role within that community? So again, if you think of the questions that might help you decide what specific anecdote or what theme you might follow. A lot of students find it helpful to approach the essay from a traditional format, opening paragraph, right? A couple anecdotes, paragraph 2, 3, maybe 4, and then a closing paragraph. But if you're following a theme, right, you could weave a theme into many, many different directions. You could have 3 or 4 anecdotes in a common theme. So one of my favorite essays that a student wrote was they were a very proud granddaughter of an Italian immigrant grandmother, and she used the topic of this secret family cookie recipe that only gets handed from grandmother to granddaughter, and she was the recipient, right, of this amazing cookie recipe. So it was about a cookie recipe and making cookies with her grandmother, but she put some common threads in there of the lines of her family history and the wrinkles of her grandmother's hand, right? And she sort of tied this into other areas. So you could see where that could lead you into a couple different directions under that one common theme. Another student was sort of a funny young man. And if humor is your thing, don't be afraid to use humor, right, in your application. If you're not funny, this is probably not the time to test that out. But if you are, you should own that and go for that. So this young man, his essay was hysterical. I still remember it. He wrote about clam chowder, and it was lumpy and bumpy. And is that a potato or a Lego? And he used sort of bits of the ingredients to tie in his interest in activities. So he was a Lego master. And he used some of these to sort of give the committee information about him that you can't find anywhere else, right, in his school activities or in his academic record. He was letting some of those funny little pieces about himself shine through in his essay. All right. How do we find the Common App prompts? So again, they are the same ones right now as the class of 2024. So you literally could Google it or go into Common App and say, what are the prompts for this year? They are the same for the class of 2025. Okay, how important is the Common App personal statement relative to the supplemental essays that many schools require? Very good question. And I will tell you, colleges do find their own supplemental essay questions very, very important. They have chosen them. They are much more college specific. And so students really need to hit the nail on the head for those questions. However, they're looking also, right, for the reflective storytelling nature of the student. So the Common App essay is still important. It's important from the aspect of, is this student, do they have good, strong writing skills? Because it's a lengthier piece of writing. And can it reflect anything personally about them that will help us understand them more? The college's supplemental essay questions are very targeted in content. So again, this is the opportunity for a student to share a little bit about themselves that will not be apparent anywhere else in their application. Question: how do the reader assess these statements? Is it a point scale or an up-down vote? Very good question. And the most frustrating answer in college admissions is it depends. Depends on the college. It depends on how many readers they have. They all create their own system for critiquing and evaluating writing samples. My belief is they have some sort of point system created, a numbering system, but it really will vary from school to school. And I would hazard a guess to say, grammar and structure is obviously still a key component. So don't disregard that totally for the story, but the voice and the authenticity of the story, to me, are equally as important as having, again, the perfect grammar and perfect structure. So another attendee says, I wonder about the consistency of the common application topics. Do any of the topics remain the same year to year, or do they change frequently? So interestingly, about every other year, several of the topics will change. And of course, that's intentional, right? People can easily recycle essays with siblings and friends. And so they do tend to shake them up a bit every other year or so. On average, they remain the same, about 1 to 2 cycles, and then they'll switch up some of the questions. The common theme throughout, though, tends to be that topic of your choice. For as long as I can remember, they have included that option. So no matter what the questions are, the student will always have the opportunity to create a topic of their choice. Okay, another attendee asks, how many personal statements should be written? Do we only submit 1 to each college? And the answer is yes, you really only need one Common App personal statement that goes to any of the Common Application colleges. And even some other application platforms beyond the Common App may ask for a personal statement in which the student is welcome to use this same information for that format. I would just caution you to check word count and make sure that isn't different from application format to application format. Okay, now I did mention this question is about not using the essay to really discuss achievements. Are there other topics that should be avoided? So I mentioned earlier, any topic can be done, if it's done well, any topic is fine. However, you don't know who the audience is, right? It could be a 52-year-old in a Talbot sweater. It could be a 22-year-old right out of college. It could be a runner. It could be a soccer player. You don't know who's reading the essay. And so choosing topics that are maybe not so controversial, right, it's probably a wise choice. However, if you have a topic that you are very passionate about, you have well-reasoned, beliefs and arguments, and you can present that in a educated, civil way, there's no reason why any particular topic couldn't be used. But most students find it really hard, right, to stay very neutral, right, in presenting informations. And so you may not want to talk about hot button political issues, right? You may not want to talk about some significant happening in the world if you have a very strong feeling one way or the other. Again, if you can present it well, it can be done well. So don't necessarily steer clear of particular topics, but frequently, I would say most high school students, there are lots of things they can talk about to avoid those potentially contentious topics. Okay. When do the Common App prompts come out? So August 1st is when they officially show up in the Common App for the graduation year. But again, you could see the prompts right now. And I know if you are a current junior, rising junior, the prompts may not be the same for you. Again, I suspect they tend to change every 2 years. And so for the class of 2026, you may see some different essay questions. So I wouldn't start drafting any quite yet. Give yourself some time. They typically announce the next cycle's questions in like February. And so you have a few months to rest and relax if you're the class of 2026 before you worry about what the topics might be. Okay, this attendee is asking, as a Jewish student, I'm worried about mentioning my related experiences, of course, right? Given what's happening right now and all the anti-Israel statements, should I be worried about readers' bias? So very, very important question. And I would say my experience with college admissions committees is they are very well trained. They are to read for content with unbiased, right, opinions and feelings. If you can present the topic well, they will read it for what it's worth. I have always found that college admissions offices are on the side of the student. Even if the particular reader might not agree with you, if you have a well-reasoned statement, they will appreciate, right, the writing, the tone of the writing, and the educational component, the well-reasoned backing of your statements. And remember, it's almost never just one person reading your essay. It's almost always at least two people, and sometimes even three. So if this is a topic that you feel very strongly about and feel like you could really write a powerful statement, don't shy away from that. But I would have you potentially talk to your school's counselor or a parent about reading it with fresh eyes and see how it comes across. Again, because I don't want you to feel worried if you don't take a risk, if you're not really comfortable taking a risk. But I don't believe this is something that any admission office would create a cause for concern. Okay. Oh, I love this question. So one of my child's schools emphasizes giving back to the community. Would it be useful to pick a personal statement that focuses on that? So it's an excellent question. And what I will say to that is, if that story, right, if the topic that your child chooses lends itself well to this sort of giving to the community, giving back to others, that's a good story for any college, right? I think that's absolutely a wonderful topic. That specific college may actually ask a supplemental additional question, right? Because if it's in that school's mission and culture, they may ask about it additionally. So then the question becomes, I wrote my whole Common App about this, but now I'm getting asked a required shorter essay question on that topic as well. And so what I wouldn't want the student to do is to have to rewrite, right, a whole nother Common App essay just because of that. So my recommendation would be for that particular college, on August 1st, again, I know I encourage you to draft the essay in June and July, which is still a good idea, but right in early August, check to see if that college has any supplemental questions around the same topic. Your child could always choose a secondary piece of service to write for that. But I think, yes, if this is a common thread for your child and it could be the 650-word essay, by all means, use that, and it would lend itself well to that particular college. Oh, exactly what I mean, anecdote. So what I mean for students in terms of anecdotes are examples of things that have happened. Failing their driver's test, right? May have enlightened them about, some direction. Trying out for a team and not making it, right? Then that anecdote is, I didn't make the team. I tried really hard. Now I'm going to refocus my effort. I'm going to come back and make that team. And now I'm going to help mentor younger students so they're not in a position like I was. The anecdote, I mean, is sort of the example of the story that you're going to build upon. So I hope that answers that question a little more clearly. I'm sorry about that. Should the personal statement be formatted, as in line spacing, paragraphs, font sizes? So the answer is yes. And when you actually create the Common App account, it will show you in the copy paste into the Common App. You can copy paste from a Google Doc. You can copy paste from a Word doc. Interestingly, you want to make sure you're double checking things like word count in the Word doc or Google Doc may not be the same as the word count in the Common App. So I've had kids panic at the last minute before they're submitting because it's cutting off 2 words of their application. This is why I say build time in, right, into your process so you can copy paste it into the Common App in advance and make sure it fits and reads appropriately. The Common App provides a student the opportunity to see a PDF preview before they hit submit. And everybody should do that. You should do that and look at it carefully in the essay section to make sure the line spacing doesn't look funny, to make sure there's a space between each of the paragraphs, to make sure a word wasn't cut off. In general, you don't want to indent. The Common App essay does not tend to format well when students indent and then copy paste, but you'll see that as soon as you try it. So, themes that potentially are overused and readers are tired of seeing. Well, that's a great question. And I will say, and I think we're a few years out now. So, the pandemic, which of course affected everybody globally, there are only so many more essays college reps could read about what kids did during the pandemic. So, I would say any topic again can be a good topic, but if there's a current happening in the world, or that we think every single person will be writing about, often presidential elections, like the pandemic, some big overarching themes, you may want to steer clear of that, unless there's something very specifically tied right to your student, that they want to talk about in terms of their story. So in general, I'd say there's no bad topic, but there could be one or two that might be so common that it's going to be the number one topic of choice. It is hard to stand out when everybody else is writing about the same thing. All right, another question. If I would be a legacy student at a certain college, can I write about my experience growing up on the campus alongside my parent? So this is a good question. And I will tell you, you may or may not follow current events happening in college admissions, but the idea of legacy is actually coming under question with a lot of universities. However, it could be an opportunity in the college's supplemental questions, like why this college, why this major. You could, of course, elaborate on how you know the campus so well, what your deep family ties might be, how you've attended, numerous functions on the campus over the years. That might be the time to bring that up. My recommendation is you would not want to use this in your common application, again, because that's going to many colleges, and you would then be editing and reworking it too many times to really serve you well. How much does it cost to use the Common App? So good question. The Common App itself is free. It's a free account. Now, what the colleges charge for are application fees individually, and those range in amounts. And once you have a Common App account and you have the colleges listed in your Common App account, you will see on summary pages all the requirements and what the application fee is. So it's very easy to see once you get that Common App created and the college is entered. But the Common App itself is a free resource. Can I write about ADHD and challenges and things you've overcome? So yes, you've heard mixed reviews. I will tell you again, there are mixed answers to that. There are varied responses. My best advice is colleges want to read about the student and give the student, they need to know the context. So if, for instance, ADHD and your academic plan has been defined or directed by this, it has created a different learning plan, different course opportunities. If you've had a roller coaster, right, of your academic history, this is context you might actually want to provide and could be tell your story. But you want to tell it from a point of how you have grown, how you have faced these challenges, how you have created, right, educational opportunities or plans that you have met with success, even though it's been a difficult path. Most colleges would say they want the context, they want you to give them the information so they can read you in the context that you deserve to be read in. If you have a particular college in mind question, I would direct that to your school's counselor, who may actually have anecdotal information based on your school's experience with applications to that college. So it is free to use. There are many free resources out there regarding the Common App. The Common App itself has free resources on their website. You're welcome to peruse that. And there are many free essay resources out there for brainstorming and crafting. I promise you, if you did a quick Google of writing the college essay support, you would find many, many, many links out there. So lots of free resources, but don't forget again, trusted adults in your life. English teachers, parents, uh, neighbors, your best friend. There are lots of people out there who can help you, right, with the brainstorming and essay drafting process. So no, great question. All colleges do not necessarily have extra supplemental questions. Not all of them. Many of them do, but not all. So again, it's worth your time to investigate creating the Common App account, making sure colleges are listed in the Common App. So on August 1st or a few days after, you can begin to see which colleges have supplementals and what those supplemental essay questions are. Okay, I think I have time for one, maybe more question here. So colleges, yes, very well may have multiple supplemental essays. So again, I create a spreadsheet, create a Google Doc, something to keep track of all of the topics, and I organize them by due date. That just helps my brain think about what I'm writing and when I'm writing. So college fee waivers. So this is a different question for me, but I can tell you from experience. The Common App allows a student to indicate they are eligible for a fee waiver. In that case, their college school counselor has to like check a box saying yes or no. And then it's just built right into the Common App. But many students, if they email the college admission office, could request an application fee waiver. If it's not a Common App school, but the easiest way to do it is to simply request it through the Common App. Okay, I think I have covered the majority of the questions. Is there any last thing I might be able to say that might help everyone? Terrific. Well, again, I thank you for your time. I hope this information was helpful. Good luck to all of you as you're thinking about this big project for the summer. But I promise you, if you map out the work and trust the process, you'll do just fine. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.